In my last video, I got really honest and opened up about what it has taken for me to go from years and years of working regular full-time jobs to starting my own art business and finally making a full living from my passions. Today, I want to continue with this conversation because I know how overwhelming, how frustrating, how confusing it can be to think you want to make a living from your work and break away from a normal 9 to 5, but maybe you're not entirely sure if this path is the right one for you. So we're going to be focusing on answering the questions: should you try to make a living from your work? And how do you know if this path is the right one for you? Because as much as I love what I do, I also know that turning your passions into a business is not for everyone. So I'm breaking up this video into 3 parts. In the first part, I am getting really honest about the pros and cons about making a living from your work. In part 2 of this video, I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about my personal story and how I knew that I wanted to step away from years and years of working regular full-time jobs and start my own art business so that I could eventually make a living from my work. And in part 3 of this video, I'm going to be talking about the plan of action that I set in place that enabled me to leave those years of regular full-time jobs to finally put my all into my business. I know how scary it can be to leave that regular job and that steady income and those benefits. By making sure that you're creating a solid plan for yourself, you'll be able to leave that with greater ease, greater confidence, and greater success. And just as an FYI, if you hear little kitten noises, it's because I'm taking care of 4-week-old kittens right here in my studio, so sorry about that. Jumping right into part 1, let's talk about the pros of making a living as an artist. The first pro that definitely comes to mind is creative fulfillment. You get to work on your own projects that you want to work on without a boss telling you what to do, without having to fit your work into a box or having to commit to very strict brand books or guidelines. If you are a graphic designer or an illustrator, you probably know what I'm talking about. No more having to squeeze your art practice time into those few hours that you have left after work every day. You have the time to continue working on your projects and continue developing your own artistic style and voice. This said, you will have to work on your productivity, your time management, maybe even your goal setting strategies, because if you're lacking in those areas, it's very possible that you won't get any work done. And if you're not careful, you can definitely be your own worst boss. Pro number 2 are freedom and flexibility when it comes to your working schedule. You can decide when you're going to be starting your day and when you're going to be ending your day, if you're going to be taking an hour off for lunch or any breaks that you might need to have. As someone who is highly introverted and struggles with anxiety, I have found it incredibly helpful that as someone who is self-employed, I am able to plan for my morning routine so that I can then tackle my day with more confidence, more energy, more focus. Whereas before, it was all rush, 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 get to the office on time and all of these things, which just increased my anxiety and my stress. I also really like the fact that I can plan for important errands during the day at any time, as long as I keep things organized and I make sure to show up for my classes that I have to teach, and I pay attention to due dates for my projects. So you have a lot of freedom and flexibility, but you still have to make sure that you're staying responsible and disciplined. You have to be very self-motivated because you still have to do all of the necessary things to continue growing your business. The third pro about being a self-employed artist is that you have endless possibilities for income streams and continuing to grow your income. When you are in a regular full-time job, usually there is a cap to what you can earn. Not to mention, if you are in a full-time job or have been in the last few years, you probably already know what it's like to not even be offered any amount of increase in your wages or in your pay. Even though inflation is going up, you're not getting any raises at all. And that can be incredibly frustrating. As a self-employed person, you can use your creativity to come up with different ways to supplement your art sales, right? Whether it is online teaching, offline teaching, giving talks, selling prints, building up your YouTube channel, some sort of membership, or creating blog posts with affiliate links. There are all of these different things that you can do to build up multiple income streams for yourself to keep things sustainable. I would never ever recommend trying to do everything at once. I made that mistake myself and it was very overwhelming. And most of those little business ventures that I was creating completely failed because I tried to do everything at once when I was, just getting started. But once you build one thing and you're relatively successful with that, you can build another income stream and then another income stream and so on and so forth. And this is how your income expands over the years with all of these different pie pieces that you're working on. People's financial situations over the years, yours and your customers and clients, are going to change depending on what's going on in the world. Sometimes people may not be able to buy original pieces, but maybe they can invest in prints, or maybe we're going through a very difficult time in the world and people actually want to take up a hobby and learn how to draw, learn how to paint. And I think that as artists, we have to continue staying creative and flexible and really see what our audience needs from us. But the financial possibilities really are endless, and that is a beautiful thing. The fourth pro about making a living as an artist is the positive impact that you have on other people's lives. Every single time that you share your work with the world, and you might not notice this yet because maybe your audience is very small, but you are making a difference in other people's lives. You are bringing light to others, you are bringing truth to others, and you are inspiring others. And of course, if you decide to teach others to any degree on your process, on your drawing or painting medium, this is also a beautiful way that you can contribute to other people's lives. And the fifth pro about making a living through your work is the personal growth, personal development that comes with building a business. So many of us that get started with this, unless we have a lot of confidence and maybe we have artists in the family, we have to do a lot of work when it comes to mindset before even doing anything else, because having a growth mindset is the foundation for our success. We have to believe in ourselves and the fact that we have something to offer to others. Having confidence in yourself to know that even though you're not a pro in those areas yet, it's just going to take learning and experience, and you will get better at those things. We have to break away from so many limiting beliefs, so many things that keep us stuck in the beginning, and all that has to do with mindset. You have to believe that you have it in you to become an artist and that you have it in you to succeed. Because if you don't believe this deeply, you're gonna sabotage yourself. But of course, aside from all of those mindset related things, productivity, time management, communication skills, all of those soft skills, if you will, are areas that you're gonna have to continue developing deeply if you want your business to be a success. And for those of us who have had normal job experiences, this is very helpful because you've already kind of grown in those areas in order to be successful at your job. You have those skills already developed to a certain degree for sure. It's just that when you're building a business, you are your own boss and you have to set your own goals because no one is going to be breathing down your neck to check that you're getting stuff done. You have to do these things yourself and stay disciplined. Now let's move on to the 5 main cons about making a living as an artist. The first con is the financial uncertainty that comes with having your own business, which personally for me was the scariest thing. Stepping away from that stable paycheck, from those medical benefits, stuff like that a normal job provides. When you have your own business, your income month to month is going to fluctuate. Maybe some months you make tons of sales and your income is going to be pretty high. And then that is followed by another month where you barely make any sales at all and your income is very low. So you definitely need to learn how to manage your money. You don't want to be spending a ton. In fact, I would recommend living frugally. I personally have a 15-year-old car. I'm definitely not the kind of person who goes on trips frequently or even goes out to eat every week. And so this makes it easier for me to have a little backup fund, a little cushion there, so that I can rely on that when my income in any given month is not very high. I can still pay the bills. All this said, even with the financial uncertainty, as I said in the pros, there are all of these different income streams that you can start exploring for yourself to balance things out when a certain part of your income is kind of low. The second con about making a living through your work is the pressure and burnout that you will eventually experience. I would say that most of us who are doing this for a living experience pressure and burnout, and it's something that we have to manage and create strategies so that we can overcome this fast, right? Because we have to keep creating, we have to keep producing. When your art and your creativity become your livelihood, this can take away the joy in the process for so many people, and I totally understand that. It can end up becoming a chore, you can end up resenting your art, and also you can end up burning yourself out to a degree at which you stop creating art altogether for years and years. So it's definitely something that you're gonna have to be careful with if you decide to take it to a professional level. Just be honest with yourself and ask yourself if your art is something that you want to keep as a hobby, as a way to de-stress, or if it's something that you actually want to make money from. The third con about making a living as an artist are all of the responsibilities that come along with starting and growing a business. Everything from setting business goals and marketing your work, because creating the art is just part of the process of selling the art. Accounting and taxes, customer service and contracts and answering emails. All of those things are very, very important, and you have to acknowledge the fact and be okay with the fact that all of these tasks are going to take a good portion of your working hours. It is not just about creating art. And for most of us, when we're getting started, we have to learn about all of these things, accounting and taxes and business stuff that maybe we're not super passionate about. But because we are passionate about the art and growing in that area, then we have to be okay with all of this that comes along with building this life. In my opinion, it takes being very passionate about art and very passionate about growing as an artist to the point that you're okay with having to deal with these things, because they come along with that. They come along with building that life. Con number 4 is that you will have to make artistic compromises if you're looking to make a steady, livable income through your work. Unless you're already a super famous artist that is selling original pieces for a good amount each, you will have to make compromises. It's not just about you creating art and putting it out there and expecting people to buy. You need to actually try a whole bunch of things. You need to do market research. You need to see what people are actually buying right now, what they are investing in, and more specifically, what they want from you. And this, of course, takes a lot of experimentation on your part, a lot of sharing your work online, offline, growing your audience, talking with people. Because yes, it's art and it's personal, and you have to be creating something that you enjoy. But you have to find a balance between doing that and creating art that people will actually want to invest in. And what people want and need changes over time due to lots of different circumstances, financial circumstances, trends, etc. And we as artists and creatives need to stay flexible about what we're offering. And the fifth con about being a full-time artist are the loneliness and the self-doubt that we often experience. Most of us who don't have teams helping us, we do the brainstorming, we create the art, we do the marketing, we sell alone. Everything that we need to do to keep our business going and to continue growing it, we do completely on our own. And because we're making all of these decisions on our own, it is normal to struggle with self-doubt, to struggle with imposter syndrome, to just feel lots of fear. We're doing something that is uncommon, that not so many people are doing. We have to figure things out on our own. It is very important that you continue learning from others, whether it's online or offline. Continue placing yourself in the presence of people who have done it already, of people who are experiencing or have experienced what you are, so that you can feel less alone, know that you are normal, and that you are on the right path. For me, being part of online communities has been not only helpful, but instrumental to my success. All right, with that, let's jump into part 2 of this video where I'm going to be talking about how I knew that I wanted to step away from my many years of working regular full-time jobs to eventually finally be working full-time in my art business. For around 13 years after having graduated from art school, I was able to experience various different jobs, from working as an in-house designer for a company, to working at an advertising agency, to working as head art teacher in a school environment for many years. And even though I started in those positions excited and I was happy to grow and learn, and I was fulfilled to a certain degree for some amount of time, I always reached a point where I became very disillusioned and also sad and confused, because as I was having these experiences, I got to know myself more and what I wanted and what I didn't want. I just couldn't see myself working long term in that position. And to be honest, none of the positions around me, the higher ups, if you will, interested me at all either. I didn't know what I aspired to do at that point, but I knew that it wasn't that. Just in terms of, those skills, those areas didn't interest me, but also in terms of my personality. I found myself as a highly introverted person, incredibly anxious all the time, and also like I had to act as if I was more extroverted just to survive on a day-to-day basis. I found it extremely exhausting. I remember me thinking back then, how am I going to be able to keep this up without going insane or without going into such deep burnout that I'm just not able to function at all? I always ended up feeling, number one, unhealthy because I was not able to take care of myself at all, and just sad and confused because I knew that I was in a place where I didn't want to be, but I didn't know what to do with my life to feel better or to get clarity in terms of what I actually wanted and how to get there. I just knew that I felt deeply unfulfilled, like something was missing and like I was completely lost. And by that point in my life, I also didn't even consider starting a business. I didn't even think about the possibility of making a living selling art or doing anything on my own as an independent artist. It just wasn't a thing in my brain. I still believed in that starving artist myth. I mean, I went into graphic design in the first place because I knew I would be able to develop artistic skills, but I also knew that I would be able to find a job after graduation relatively easily. And throughout all of these years, I was not creating art for myself at all because I was exhausted. And the last thing that I wanted to do when I got home was to continue using my focus and my creativity. So I did nothing after work. I told myself that I didn't have time, but honestly, I could have made time in the weekends. When I was close to hitting 30 is when I just decided to start painting again and understand that I hadn't really drawn or painted for myself since art school. It's one thing to draw and paint for a job, and completely another thing to draw and paint for your own personal artistic growth. I started learning from people online. I started running into artists like Kendall Hillegas and Holly Exley and Fran Meneses, and they were so inspiring to me. They were all independent artists or illustrators who are doing this for a living, and they were so generously sharing about their experiences, how they were building a business, a lot of tips and advice, and they were also sharing their beautiful art. With my new supplies, I started painting again on the weekends. At this point, I was using watercolors and acrylics and oils and colored pencils. I was so excited to be drawing and painting again for myself and to see how my skills were continuing to grow as I stayed consistent. I remember being so frustrated because I was at my job and all I wanted to do was get home and paint and continue creating new paintings. At around 32, I had already developed my skills to a pretty good level, I would say, and I was creating paintings on canvas, oil paintings, acrylic paintings. I started sharing my work locally and online in both events and social media. And I started selling my work and doing commissions, mostly decorative artwork at that point. Eventually, adults started approaching me and asking me if I was teaching classes. And so I was absolutely over the moon to open up the doors of my own home studio in the weekends and start teaching older people. So as you can see, it was a series of events that unfolded because I decided to listen to myself, to follow my curiosities, and I took inspired action, messy action, but it allowed me to discover all of these things about myself. And then one thing led to another thing. And I was still working at my full-time position, but I was already doing all of these things that had me excited about life again, excited in a way that I had never been before. I was gaining confidence as well in my skills as an artist and also as a possible business owner, which, oh my God, it was a surprise to me. And I knew at 33 that it was now or never. If I didn't take action now and started putting more effort, more time into building a business, then I would probably always stay in my full-time position. I knew that I did not want to reach the end of my life full of regret and just knowing that I wasted my life and wasted my gifts. At that point, I understood that it was best to try and fail than not try at all. And so at 33, I finally sat down. I created a plan for myself that would allow me to eventually leave my last full-time job, which involved the tips that I'm going to be sharing with you in the final part of this video. But I made a promise to myself to follow that plan, to commit to working in that job for at least 2 more years, to allow myself enough time to save up enough money that I knew I was going to need for initial business investments. And moving on to the last part of this video, this is the part where I'm going to be sharing the practical tips, the actual plan that I created for myself that allowed me to start and build my business with more calm, more ease, eventually leave my last regular job and start gradually growing my income coming through my art to the point that I was finally able to make a full living from my work. The very first thing that I had to make sure to do is to develop my art skills to a certain level. You don't have to be a master at your drawing or painting medium to start selling your work, not at all, but I would recommend working on your business until you are confident with your skills and you feel you have something that is valuable that you can offer to others. If you're still putting in a lot of time and energy into building your skills, and on top of that, you need to learn all of these new things that have to do with business, marketing, sales, all of this technology that you need to know about, accounting, etc. It's just going to be too overwhelming and too much to take on at once. Not to mention, if you haven't developed your skills to a certain level and you don't have a body of work or any idea of what you're going to be selling specifically, then what are you going to sell to people? Who is your audience? On top of this, you're going to be able to build up your audience, which you definitely need if you're looking to make a consistent income through your work, if it already shows a certain level of quality and professionalism. So focus on developing your skills first, take as long as you need to, and then if you wish to, you can start building a business. You have to be honest with yourself about where you're currently at. Maybe start collecting some resources, books, workshops, courses that will help you build up the skills that you're lacking, and create a time frame for yourself. Are you going to be giving yourself 6 months, a year, 2 years? Point number 2 in your planning is assess your current chapter in life and really think about your current financial needs. What is your baseline income that you absolutely need to cover monthly bills and put food on the table? Do other people depend on you? Family members, kids? Do you already have some savings that you can use for initial business investments? Personally, I'm pretty risk averse, and so I wanted to make sure to have enough money saved up to cover these basic bills every month for at least a year. And on top of that, I knew that I needed to save up more in order to cover initial business investments such as an accountant, my website, business courses, art supplies, etc. I knew it would take time for my business to become profitable because A, I didn't have an audience, and B, I knew nothing about marketing. I had a lot of learning to do. If you already have an audience or you have a leg up in marketing and sales, maybe it doesn't take that long for you to get your business up and running. Whatever the case may be, I want you to think of a specific amount of money that you need to have saved up and then work backward from there and think of how long you're going to have to keep working at that regular job, or maybe consider working part-time. It is going to take time for your business to become profitable. Point number 3 in this plan is to actually set a timeline, and I want you to write this down physically. Things are way more likely to happen if you write them down. With the information you have thought about and compiled in points 1 and 2, set a specific time frame. How long will this take for you? How long will it take you to get up your skills to a certain level so that you're finally feeling confident? And how long will it take you to build up that financial cushion for yourself so that you don't have to put unnecessary pressure on your art to produce a profit for you right off the bat, which is just not realistic and not healthy for you? Is it going to take a year, 2 years, 3 years? It has to be realistic and based on your current situation, your current financial responsibilities, and everything that you have going on in your life. Don't compare yourself to anyone else because everyone is in a different situation. We have different responsibilities. We have different temperaments. Some people are more risk averse than others. Some people already have a leg up because they have certain skills. Your time frame cannot be so short that it is unrealistic and you will overwhelm yourself. And it cannot be too long that you're going to forget about your goals and you just won't do anything. If you need help setting SMART goals, I would recommend checking out my goal setting video for artists. I'm going to make sure to leave a link to that down below in the description box. The point here is to establish a plan and get started right away with the time and the resources that you currently have. Point number 4 in your plan is to set specific objectives in terms of initial business investments that you're going to be making. One of the very first things that I did after seeing a few consistent sales over the months was to hire an accountant. And I would be paying that accountant month to month because in my country, we pay business taxes every month. And because I knew nothing about taxes, it would be very helpful to have someone on my side that I could call and just ask questions when anything came up. So I looked up different accountants in my area. I set up appointments with them and I chose the one that I felt more comfortable with, that explained things in a way that I could understand and that just felt like a good fit for me. I also invested in 2 different online business courses because I was very interested in taking my business online. By that point, I was already offering services locally, I was selling art in local art events, and I was also teaching out of my own home studio. However, I knew nothing about online business. And so I invested in myself and my learning. But what do you need? Do you need to buy art supplies? Do you need a desk? Do you need a new computer, a new camera? Be very strategic about what you decide to invest in. I would not recommend spending large amounts of money on furniture and technology. In fact, I'm a big believer in starting scrappy, starting small, and just investing in the basics and things that you actually need to get things up and running. Create a short list of investments for yourself that you absolutely need, and in your timeline that you started in the previous point, make a note of when you're going to start looking for options and you're going to start paying for these things. And finally, moving on to point number 5 in your plan. And this one is establish how you're going to be growing your audience. Because as I said before, if you don't have an audience, you have no one to sell to. Whether you're going to be growing your business locally, in person, or online, people need to know about you. This is going to be a time of experimentation, of connecting with people, asking questions, and learning about what people like about your work, what pieces they enjoy more, and what they need from you. You're not going to know what people resonate with about your work until you start putting it out there. Growing your audience takes a lot of consistent effort, a lot of putting your work out there on a regular basis and connecting with people. Just posting your work on social media, even if you have a high skill level, is not enough. You need to engage with people. You need to connect with people and start building relationships. Show that you care about people. And continue doing this over the long haul. Remember that you have to give before you receive. And this is something that I constantly talk about in other art business videos. You cannot just put your work out there and expect people to reach out and pay tons of money for your work. There is a lot that you have to do to actually make sales, especially consistently, that are separate from creating the art. If you haven't checked out my video on the 8-phase roadmap to starting a successful art business, I would highly recommend it because in that video, I break everything down into steps and provide many more ideas when it comes to growing your audience, how to set SMART goals, and much more. I'll make sure to link to it down below. Turning your art into a business is a deeply personal choice. It is not for everyone, and that's okay. Some artists thrive keeping their passions a hobby, while others, like myself, turn their art into a career. One thing is for sure, and it's that you should never, ever feel pressured to sell your work if you don't feel that you're ready or you feel that it's just not for you. Let's talk about this in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever considered making an income through your work? What excites you and what scares you about this? I would love to hear your thoughts. If you found this video helpful and you would like to see more like this, as well as tips and tutorials videos on sketching and watercolor, stick around, consider subscribing. It's completely free, and I would love to have you become part of this growing art community. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.